Hi everyone. Today we want to discuss evolution of C++, the object-oriented technology, disadvantages of conventional programming, key concepts of object-oriented programming, advantages of object-oriented languages. Then before going to start the evolution of C++, we want to reminder yesterday class. So then your introduction. So introduction, simply what is a software? Software is set of programs. Program is a set of instructions. Then there are two types of softwares. So system softwares and application softwares. Your system softwares like operating systems. Those are Windows, Linux, Unix, DOS, etc. Application softwares. Application softwares are C language, Pascal, C++, Java, etc. Then what is a language? A language means medium of communication and communicate to the computer. We need a common language that is called computer language. There are three types of computer languages. First one is machine language. Second one is assembly language. Third one is high level language. Machine language. A computer is an electronic machine which can understand any instruction written in binary form, that is using only zeros and ones. A program written in zeros and ones is called machine language, while a computer easily understands this language. It is difficult for humans to write an instructions in terms of zeros and ones. Assembly language. In assembly language, which was developed subsequently, machine operations are represented by mnemonic codes and symbolic names that specifies the memory address. The mechanism, the mnemonic codes are move, add, mul, sub, store, halt, etc. These mnemonic codes are used to directly store the data in CPU registers. So these are called mnemonic codes: move, add, mul, store, halt, etc. So assembly language is also called low level language. And third one, high level language. High level languages are much easier to write the low level languages because programs written in this are similar to instructions written in the English language. So generally high level languages are platform independent. Why it is called platform independent? This means that one can write a program in a high level language and run it on different types of machines. Instructions written in high level languages are called statements. So examples of high level languages are Pascal, COBOL, Fortran, Basic, C, C++, Java, Python, Visual C++, etc. These are all the high level languages. Then the high level languages are characterized into two types. The first one is procedure oriented programming. Second one is object oriented programming. In the procedure oriented programming, programs are divided into individual procedures that perform specific tasks. Then the entire program can be divided into small pieces. Each piece is known as subprogram or function or procedure or module. Here a procedure is a self-contained block of statements. So this is used to find a specific task. So then each module is independent of other procedure. Each procedure is independent of the other procedure. In the procedure-oriented programming languages, procedures have their own local data and processing logic. The programs can be broken up into modules. Each module consists of different set of functions. So then this is the procedure oriented programming language. Next one, object oriented programming languages. In the object oriented programming language, one of the main drawbacks of the procedure oriented programming is it cannot provide data abstraction. It provides functional abstraction. To address the increasing complexity with the software for the data abstraction, object oriented programming came into existence. Then the object oriented programming languages incorporate all the features of the OOP. Then the next one, so introduction to C++. So what is C++? Here C++ is a general purpose, high level, compiler based, object oriented programming language. Here C++ is a general purpose, object oriented, high level, compiler based and object oriented programming language. Then this is a general purpose. This is also multi-purpose high level compiler based and object oriented programming language. So general purpose, here purpose means uses. There is an example, there is a general store. In general store we are getting various items. So using C++, we are able to design different types of softwares, different types of softwares, the, that different types of softwares. That's why C++ is called general purpose, high level, compiler based and object oriented programming language. It is also called multi-purpose. It is also called multi-purpose programming language. Here simply, what are the softwares we are able to design with C++? These are all the softwares we are able to design with C++. OS, editors, commercial applications, databases, translators, device drivers, PC mobile games, PC and mobile games, protocols, etc. These are all the softwares using with C++. Using C++. Next one is introduction to C++. Here C++ is an object-oriented programming language. C++ was developed by John Strostrup in early 1983 at AT&T Bell Laboratories, USA. C++ was developed from C and similar 67 languages. C++ was early called C with classes. So next, differences between C and C++. Differences between C and C++. What is the difference between first difference? C language is a procedure oriented programming language. Then C++ is an object oriented programming language. This is the first difference and major difference in C and C++. Differences between C and C++. C is a procedure oriented language. C++ is an object oriented programming language. In C language, data is not protected in C. Then whereas in C++, data is secured in C++ because then there is a data hiding concept is used in C++. Then here C language, then there is no data hiding concepts. Then in C language, it uses top-down approach, whereas in C++ uses bottom-up approach. In C language, fourth point, In C language, same name cannot be given to functions, whereas in C++, with function overloading, it is possible to give same name to or more functions. So, two or more functions, same name cannot be given to functions in C language. So here unique, whereas in C++, same name, same name possible to give two or more functions. Then whereas in function overloading, here function names are same, we will sending arguments are different. Sending arguments are different. We will pass the arguments, different arguments. So then the function overloading, operator overloading, we will discuss in second unit. Whereas in C language, scanf and printf are the input-output functions, whereas in C++, cin and cout are used for reading and writing data respectively. Then in C language, C uses stdio.header files for input and output operations, whereas in C++, iostream.h for the same purpose, input and output header file. We want to define an header file. We want to use C in, C out of input output statements in C++. We should define iostream.h. Whereas in C language, stdio.h is used to execute input output statements like scanf and printf statements. A standard input output. So standard input output header file. Here like iostream input output stream header file. Here streams like files. Then C has no constructor and destructors, whereas in C++ provides constructors and destructors. So whereas in C language, inline functions can be used as macros, whereas in C++, inline functions are supported by C++. Inline functions, then there is a new feature allowed in C++. So then these are the differences between C and C++. We discussed some other differences also yesterday. Then here C and C++, the most important one. So this is a procedure oriented programming language. Then those are called, then C++ language is called object oriented programming language. Then here last but one, here C has no constructors and destructors. Here C++ provides constructors and destructors. Here constructor is a special member function. So that is a, that the name is class name and constructor names are the same in C++. So your constructors are the member functions. So these are invoked before creation of an object. So later we will discuss in the second unit constructors and destructors. What are the advantages of constructors? How many types of constructors? Where we can use constructors, and what is a destructor? Then where we can use a destructor? What is the purpose of destructor? So then in next class we will discuss. Then the next one in C language, then we can call a main function through other functions. In C++, we cannot call main function through other functions. So then in C language, malloc function, calloc functions are used for memory allocation and free function for memory deallocation function. Whereas in C++, new and delete operators are used, then where a new operator used for memory allocation and delete operator is used for memory deallocation, memory release. So then it in C language supports built-in and primitive data types, whereas in C++ supports both built-in and user-defined data types. In C, it does not provide direct support to exception handling. So whereas in C++, exception handling is done with try and catch blocks. Then these are the differences between C and C++. These are the differences between C and C++. Yesterday we discussed. Then today we want to discuss evolution of C++. Evolution of C++. So evolutions of C++. Yes, We know yesterday we discussed ancestors of C language, that is evolution of C language. First one, Algol, algorithmic language, Algol. Then the second one, Algol, BCPL. Next one is B language. Next one, C language. Next one, ANSI C. And next one is ANSI C, ISOC. These are all the evolutions of C language. Whereas in evolution of C++, so those are also included. Then some algorithmic programming language, algorithmic language. So Algol, so some scientists added new features. Then the resultant language is called. Then the resultant language is called BCPL, Basic Combined Programming Language. Then the resultant language is called BCPL, that is called then Algol, BCPL, B language, traditional C, ANSI C. So ANSI, ISOC. So for example, in the international group developed this one Algol in 1960s. Algol. Then Martin Richards added some additional features. The resultant language is called BCPL. Then Ken Thompson added some features of BCPL. Then the combined programming language is called B language, that is basic language. Ken Thompson. Developed and released in 1970. Then Dennis Ritchie added some features of B language in 1973. So the combined programming language is called traditional C language. Then ANSI, American National Standard Institution Committee, added some additional features. Then and also recognized so traditional C language. Then the resultant language is called ANSI C language, that is released in 1989. Then ISO committee also recognized in 1990. So then the resultant language is called ISO C or ANSI C. Then in C++, evolutions of C++, then here C Simula 67. So here is extracted some features of C language and extracted Simula 67. Then these features added are combined into a single unit, that is called C with classes. Then the next one here Algol 68 and C with classes extracted Algol 68 features and C with class features. Those two features combined into one language. The one language is called C++. In the evolution of C++, here C++ programming was developed by John Strostrup in the year 1979 at AT&T Bell Laboratories in Murray Hill, New Jersey, USA, as part of his PhD thesis. In 1979 at AT&T Bell Laboratories in Murray Hill, New Jersey, USA, as part of his PhD thesis. Then C++ runs on a variety of platforms such as Windows, Mac operating system, and the various versions of Unix. He added new features taken from the language called Simula 67, Simula 67 to the C language to enhance its performance, and originally named it as C with classes. Originally named with C with classes, but later he added some features from the language called Algol 68. Algol 68. It was renamed by Ricky Massity as C++ in the year 1983. The name C++ is thought as the C post increment operator, that is plus plus operator. That's why this is called C++. C++ is a superset of C, hence any legal C programs can be executed in C++. Can be legal programs, any legal C programs can be executed in the C++. So this is the evolution of C++. Simply in 1979, John Strostrup released a version that is the C++. So that is his PhD work. The C++ runs on variety of platforms. Okay. So next one, some features extracted, Unix versions. So these versions, Unix versions. And next one is Simulus 67. Next one, Algol 68. Next one, C++. Then simply C with similar features, then C with classes. Then Algol 68 and C with classes combined into a single unit, that is called C++. So extraction of C. So then your incrementation of C, here C++, here C++. Then the next one is object oriented technologies. And the object oriented technologies. So evolution of object oriented technology, C++, evolution of C++. Then the next one is the object oriented technology. In the object oriented technology, we can call object oriented technology as a problem solving methodology or an approach to carry out software engineering activities. In object oriented technology is the approach to solve the real world object problem. We can call object oriented technology as a problem solving methodology. Then how? Nature is composed of various objects. Yes, all of you. So a living being can be categorized into different objects. Let us consider an example of a teaching institute which has two different working sections. Here teaching and non-teaching. First one is teaching and the second one is non-teaching. Further subgrouping of teaching and non-teaching can be made for the coordination of management. The various departments of any organization can be thought of as objects working for certain goals and objectives. Usually, an institute has faculty of different departments. The director or principal is a must for the overall management of the institute. The academic dean is responsible for the academics of the institute. The dean for planning should have the future plans of the institute and he must see how the infrastructure is utilized effectively. The Dean R&D should see research activities run in the institute forever. Besides teaching staff, there must be laboratory staff for assistance in conducting practical sessions and a site development section for beautification of the campus. The accounts department is also required for handling monetary transaction and salaries of the employees. The support section is entrusted the responsibility of sports activities. The register for administration and staff for dealing with administrative matters of the institute are also required. Each department has an in charge who carries clear-cut given responsibilities. Every department has its own work as stated above. When an institute work is distributed into departments, so is compatible to accomplish goals and objectives. The activities are carried on smoothly. The burden of one particular department has to shared among different departments with personnel. The staff in the department is controlled properly and act according to the instruction laid down by the management. The faculty performs activities related to teaching. If the higher authority needs to know the details regarding the theory, practical, seminar, and project loads of individuals of the department, then a person from the department furnishes the same to the higher authority. This way, some responsibility persons from the department accesses the data and provides the higher authority with the requisite information. Requisite information. It is also good to think that no unconnected persons from another department reads the data or attempts to make any alteration that might corrupt the data. As shown in, so institutions is divided into different departments such as library, classrooms, computer laboratory, etc. Each department performs its own activities in association with the other departments. Each department may be considered as a module and it contains class and objects in C++ language. This theory of class and object can be extended to every walk of life and can be implemented with software. In general, objects are in terms of entities. In a nutshell, in object-oriented programming, objects of a program interact by sending messages to each other. To each other. See the figure. So an institute is divided into different departments such as a library, a classroom, computer laboratory, etc. Each department performs its own activities. So your classroom, this is used to teach lessons. Then your computer laboratory, this is used. What is the purpose of computer laboratory? To do the practicals. Then the library, so this is used to issue and return books, then magazines, etc. Then each department performs its own activities in association with the other departments. Then there is classroom. Students are available. Then the teacher will teach lesson and the students are available. Then the computer lab will open and do the practical works. Then the students are available. Then the students go to library and take or collect books from the library. And here then there is a relation between, then there are linking bondings between departments. So each department may be considered as a module. This is here computer lab is one module, then classroom is another module, then library is another module, and it contains class and objects in C++ language. This theory of class and objects can be extended to every work of life and can be implemented with software. In general, objects are in terms of entities. Those are called class variables. What are the disadvantages of conventional programming? So the following are the disadvantages of conventional programming. Disadvantages of conventional programming. So in traditional programming languages such as COBOL, Fortran, C, etc. are commonly known as procedure-oriented languages. The program written in these languages consists of a sequence of instructions that tells the computer or interpreter to perform a given task. Numerous functions are initiated by the user to perform a task. When a program code is large, it becomes inconvenient to manage it. To overcome this problem, procedures or subroutines were adapted to make a program more understandable to the programmers. A program is divided into many functions. A program is divided into many functions. So, many functions. What are the? Each function can call another function. Your main function Here function A, function B, function C, etc. In this figure, see all of you in this figure, each function can call another function. So each function has its own task. Then function A is used to perform its own task. Function B is also perform its own task. Function C is also perform its own task. Here function D, etc. These are all. So then each function in the diagram has its own task. One task. If the program is too large, the functions also creates problems. So if it is a large program, so the users will confuse to call the functions. So also creates problems. In many programs, important data variables are declared as global. In many programs, important data declared as global. In case of programs containing several functions, every function can access the global data as per the simulation in the figure, below figure. See all of you. This is the simulation global data. So this the first global variables, sending function A, function B, function C, function D. Then the second global variables sending function A, function B, function C, function D, etc. Then the next global variables, third one, here sending all these functions, function A, function B, function C, function D. Then this is received. Function A is received global variables 1, global variables 2, global variables 3. Then function B, function C, function D is also receiving all the global variables, In whose programs it is difficult to know what data is used, which function. So in this diagram, function B is little bit confused. So then in the function B is what data is used. So in first two global variables, second global variables, then third global variables. Which data is used in function B, function C, function D, and function A. Then there is a little bit confusion. So then so difficult to know what data is used, which function. Due to this, the program may contain several errors. The following are the drawbacks of the global conventional programming. So procedure oriented programming languages are also conventional programming languages. Procedure oriented programming languages are called conventional programming. The first difference is global data access. Already I shown diagram. Then there is a little bit confusion. Then it does not model real world problems very well. So it does not write or develop the program. Then there is a little bit confusion. So no data hiding. Then there is no security providing in conventional programming to the data. So then whose programs are divided into smaller programs known as functions. These functions can call one another, hence security is not provided. No importance is given to security of data and importance is laid on doing things. Data passes globally from function to function. Most functions access global data. These are all the disadvantages of conventional programming languages. How these overcome in object oriented programming languages we will learn next class. Then key concepts of object oriented programming. What are the key concepts of object oriented programming? These are the key concepts. The major concepts of object oriented programming are class, object, abstraction, encapsulation, data hiding, inheritance, reusability, polymorphism, virtual functions, message passing. We will discuss all these concepts in our entire C++ syllabus. So then class, object, abstraction, encapsulation, data hiding, inheritance, reusability, polymorphism, virtual functions, then message passing. These are all the concepts of object oriented programming language. Here C with classes. That's why C++. That's why this is called C++. So additional features added to C language. Those additional features are called object oriented concepts. These are all the object oriented concepts. See with these concepts. See with these concepts. So that's why this is called C++. Here C++ is a general purpose programming, object oriented programming language. These are the these are the concepts of object oriented programming languages. So major concepts of object oriented programming, then first one, abstraction, encapsulation, data hiding, inheritance, polymorphism, virtual functions. So these are the most important concepts in object oriented programming languages. Simply, what is a class? A class is an abstract data type. A class is an abstract data type. So then that contains member variables and member functions, that contains member variables and member functions that operate on data. It starts with the keyword class. A class denotes a group of similar objects. A class denotes a group of similar objects. Simply, what is a class? A class is a Simply, what is a class? A class is an abstract data type that contains member values and member functions that operate on data. It starts with the keyword class. A class denotes a group of similar objects. So this is the example of class. This is the example of class. So example of class, all of you. Then so example of class. This is same as structure in C language. Sorry. This is same as structure in C language. Here class employee. Here this is the class is a keyword in C++. Employee is the name of the user defined name. User defined name. Here class name. Then begin. Then begin. So variables, define variables and methods. Simply a class. This is a class is a collection of members and member functions. Here employee number, name, designation, salary. These are all the members of this class. And so then get data and put data, get data and put data. These are the member functions. Get data and put data are the member functions. So here simply in C language structure struct, here structure name sample, then begin integer, here number, then here total marks, etc. Then here character name of 20, then average, here float abc, float average, then float average next one is float average. Then the next one is your structure close, then semicolon. Here semicolon means end of the structure. All of you, this is the structure in C language. Then this is the structure in C language. This is the class in C++. Your structure sample, integer number total, character name of 20, float average, float average. So then your class employee in C language struct sample. So your class is similar to the structure, but your structure is nothing but a user defined data type. Yes or no, all of you. Then whereas in structure, we will define all types of variables in a single unit. Simply, we can store all kinds of data items in a single unit. That is called structure variable STU. Then here STU occupies the how much memory it occupies? The total members memory is occupies STU, where STU is a structure variable. Remember, then here we can store integer data, we can store character data, then we can store average float values. Then so here structure is a user defined data type. This is used to store all kinds of data items, all kinds of data items. Whereas in a class is an employee. Your class name, your structure name, then begin. Your integer employee number, integer number total. Your character name of 25, your character name of 20. Your float salary, float average. Then these are all the members. What is the difference between structure and class? Your class is nothing but a collection of members and member functions, whereas the structure collection of members only. Then there are no member functions in structure. All of you remember, but it is similar to class is similar to structure. So your class, what is a class? Class is nothing but an abstract data type that contains member variables and member functions that operate on data. It starts with the keyword class. A class denotes a group of similar objects. After creating the class, we can create an object. How to create an object? Then simply in the main function, your class name employee, class in the main function, class name employee, then here variable name, for example, var1, so var2, etc. Here number of variables. Here stu comma in structure variables stu1, then the next one stu2, etc. So how many you want, you can create, no problem. Then this is the class is a collection of members and member functions. Here what is public? Then in C++ language, in object oriented programming language, there are three kinds of visibilities available. Here private visibility, public visibility and protected visibility. So then here for private visibility, these are the limited inside the class. Then public visibility, they are limited inside the class, outside the class. Okay, so then we can access the data inside the class and outside the class. Then there is a protected visibility. Later we will discuss in inheritance concepts. Then there is a protected keyword is occurred. So later we will discuss. Then what is the next concept is object. Next concept is object. What is an object? What is an object? Here object, object. An object is an instance of a class, that is called variable of a class. It is a variable that represents data as well as functions required for operating on the data. They interact with private data and function through public functions. They interact with private data and functions through public functions. For example, here employee E1, E2, etc. This is a class name. This is a class name. Then create a variable E1, E2. These variables are called objects of the employee class. Objects of the employee class. In the above example, employee is the class name and E1 and E1 and E2 are objects of the class. Next concept is Data abstraction. Yes or no? Abstraction. So what is an abstraction? An abstraction refers to the process of using user-defined functions or library functions to perform a certain task without knowing the inner details. The function should be treated as black box. The details of the body of the function are hidden from the user. So in the abstraction refers to the process of uh, process of concentrating on the most essential features and ignoring the details. There are two types of abstractions, your procedural abstraction and data abstraction. The procedural abstraction refers to the process of using user defined functions or library functions to perform a certain task. That is called procedural abstractions. The name implies procedure. Procedure means function. So the procedural abstraction is a process of using user defined functions or library functions to perform a certain task. Next one, data abstraction. Data abstraction refers to the process of formation of user defined data type from different predefined data types. Then there are predefined data types available in C language, C++, etc. So for example here, structure and class. So then the next one is data encapsulation. Next one is encapsulation. So encapsulation and the remaining concepts we will discuss next class. Okay, remember what are the concepts we discussed today? What are the concepts we discussed today? Simply introduction to C++, introduction to C++, differences of C++, then evolution of C++, then object oriented technology. Next one is disadvantages of conventional programming, and the next one is key concepts of object oriented programming. We are discussing. We want to discuss the remaining concepts to the next class. Okay, am I clear? All of you? Okay, bye.